Hi everyone and welcome to Fresh from My Garden. Potatoes are one staple vegetable that everyone uses in their kitchen and it is really easy to grow. So in today's video I'm sharing some tips on growing potatoes. Here we have some seed potatoes. These are seed baby potatoes that we are going to be planting today. So in this video I'll share some tips on how to grow potatoes, a few things to take care when growing potatoes. Planting some baby potatoes, so when you're planting regular potatoes you can cut up the potatoes just so that it has two or three of the eyes on them and you can plant them that way. But with baby potatoes, we are just planting the whole potato. And you might be noticing that the container is only half filled. So, the reason for that is as these potatoes grow bigger, the stalks are very slim and tender and they need more support. So, once the stalks grow, we need to add more soil to the container. By doing this, we are encouraging more tuber growths on the potatoes and also giving support to the stems of the plant that are really thin and tender. Another important thing to keep in mind when we are growing potatoes is the potatoes itself or the tubers should never be exposed to the sun. They must always remain under the soil until it is time for harvest. If these potatoes are exposed to the sun, they turn green in color and these potatoes are harmful for consumption. So, once you have planted your potato seeds and they start to grow, and now you can see that the stalks are starting to fall over and they are really thin. So, this is the time to add more soil to the container and fill it up. We are also adding some compost along with the garden soil that will enrich the nutrients and help this plant do better and get us a good harvest. So, the plants usually flower and die back completely when it is time for these plants to be harvested. Sometimes they do flower and sometimes they don't. So, in this batch of potatoes, we didn't see any flowers on these plants. There have been batches earlier when we had flowers growing on them before the plants die back completely. Also, another tip to keep in mind is to avoid watering these plants for a few days before the harvest time. So, this will help thicker skins to form and make sure that these potatoes that are growing don't rot under the soil. These plants like full sun and don't like to be overwatered since it is a root vegetable. So make sure to provide full sun and also that the soil doesn't stay wet at all times. So these are the plants that have dried up and they actually dried up pretty quickly and faster than expected because they got infected by some pests. And now we are digging up the soil to see what harvest we're going to get today. So finally, this is the total harvest that we received from this batch of potatoes. But now we saw another volunteer plant in another pot right outside our front garden. So this plant we are going to save and see if we can get some good harvest of potatoes from this plant. So carefully we are removing this plant along with some soil and planting it into another container and hoping that we will get a good harvest from this plant. Please do share your comments and thoughts about our gardening videos. Thanks for watching Fresh from My Garden.